When you think of pioneers trapped in the Sierra Nevada, one name usually comes to mind: Donner. But just 2 years before that famous tragedy, another group faced that very same brutal winter and had a very different outcome. So today, we're going to get into the incredible and often overlooked story of a 17-year-old boy who survived it all, completely on his own. Those are the words of Moses Schallenberger himself, and man, they just cut right to the heart of his ordeal, don't they? This wasn't just a battle against the cold or against starvation. It was a deep, profound struggle against absolute isolation, a fight to keep his own mind from breaking. And the setting? Well, it's a place you've probably heard of: Donner Lake. The time is the winter of 1844, but our main character is just a boy, an orphan named Moses, left to fend for himself in a tiny, hastily built shelter against one of the most unforgiving environments in North America. So that's the big question, right? How did this kid end up here? And even more incredible, how in the world did he manage to survive? To really understand that, we have to go back. Let's trace the journey that led him to this desperate moment and uncover the unbelievable resourcefulness that let him walk out of those mountains alive. All right, to really get a handle on his incredible solitude, we have to rewind a bit. We've got to look at the journey itself. You see, Moses was part of a truly historic expedition, one with a goal so ambitious it had never been pulled off before. Okay, so the group he was with was called the Stephens-Townsend-Murphy Party. They rolled out of Iowa in the spring of 1844. Moses, who'd been an orphan since he was just 6 years old, was traveling with his older sister Elizabeth and her husband. And even though he later said he was only a boy, he was pulling his weight just like everyone else on this grueling trek. Now, here's what made this group totally different. See, every group before them had been forced to ditch their wagons at the base of the mountains. It was just too tough. But the Stephens-Townsend-Murphy Party, they were determined. They were going to be the first to find a way to get their wagons, their entire livelihoods, all the way into California. And what a journey it was. I mean, we're talking a 2,000-mile odyssey. They followed the Oregon Trail for a while, then took a hard turn southwest, right into the punishing Great Basin. After a really rough desert crossing, where they were actually guided by a local Paiute chief they nicknamed Truckee, they finally made it to the foot of the Sierras. And that's exactly when the first winter storms started to roll in. And this is where everything changed. This is where their ambition slammed right into a wall of brutal reality. The mountains were this massive barrier of granite and snow, and they were just running out of time. They had to make some incredibly difficult, life-altering choices. So Captain Elisha Stevens, he finds this route, but it's barely passable. It becomes obvious. There's no way they're getting all 11 wagons over before the heavy snow traps them for good. So they make the tough call: get 5 wagons over the summit and leave 6 of them behind at the lake, packed with valuable goods. Well, somebody had to stay behind to guard all that valuable property, and 3 people volunteered: Joseph Foster, Alan Montgomery, and 17-year-old Moses. He later said he didn't think it seemed that dangerous. They were good hunters. The area looked like it was full of game. They really had no idea what they were in for, what a Sierra winter actually meant. So they build this little cabin, but the snow just keeps coming down day after day. And the game, it's all vanished. They realize they're going to starve if they stay. So the 3 of them try to make a break for it over the pass. But their snowshoes, which they made from wagon parts, were a total disaster. Clunky, heavy. The 2 grown men could kind of manage, but for a 17-year-old kid like Moses, the strain was just too much. He starts getting these awful, debilitating cramps. He knew it. He just couldn't keep up. When they reached the summit, he made a staggering choice. He would turn back to the cabin, alone, rather than slow down his friends and probably doom them all. And the last thing he hears them say is, "Goodbye, Moses." Can you imagine? Those words, he said, they echoed in his mind for the rest of his life. Because everyone, including him, thought they were leaving him there to die. And just like that, the real test began. All alone, completely exhausted, with almost no supplies, Moses had to find a way to survive, not just the winter, but his own mind. His struggle would become one of the great, untold survival stories of the American West. So he starts digging through the abandoned wagons. And what does he find? Steel animal traps. A little bit of hope. But then his first catch is a coyote. He tries cooking it every which way, but it's just inedible. Disgusting. But then he started trapping foxes. And the meat,
while not great, was tolerable. It became his lifeline, the one thin thread keeping him from starvation.
You see, Moses was fighting a war on two fronts here. For the physical battle, he had his traps and that crude little cabin. But for the psychological battle, he came up with this really brilliant defense. To fight the crushing loneliness, he found books in the wagons and read them out loud, just so he could hear the sound of a human voice. And to fight off despair, he created a strict daily routine. Check the traps, gather firewood, prepare his food. It was that discipline, that routine, that kept his mind from shattering. So imagine this. It's the last day of February, 1845. He's been totally alone for almost 3 months, and he looks out across the snow, and he sees a figure walking towards him. It was Dennis Martin, another member of the party, who had promised Moses' sister that he would come back for him. That moment of rescue, just seeing another human being, Moses said he would never, ever forget it. And that's what makes the story of the Stephens-Townsend-Murphy Party so incredible. Their success rate, it was 100%. Every single person survived. In fact, 2 babies were born on the trail, so they actually arrived in California with more people than when they started. It's just a stunning achievement, a testament to their leadership and planning that really stands in stark contrast to the tragedy that would happen in that exact same spot just 2 years later. But here's the thing. That incredible ordeal, it wasn't the end of his story. In fact, it was really just the beginning. After he was rescued, Moses Schallenberger didn't just disappear. He became a foundational figure in what would soon become the state of California. He didn't just survive, he absolutely thrived. When his sister and her husband died a few years later, he adopted their infant son, repaying the kindness they'd shown him when he was an orphan. He became a very successful rancher, one of the pioneers of the huge fruit orchards in the Santa Clara Valley, and a really respected community leader. And crucially for us, he dictated his memories to a historian, making sure this incredible story wasn't lost. And if you go to California today, his legacy is, well, it's literally carved into the landscape. Schallenberger Ridge stands right there, overlooking the very lake where he spent that long, solitary winter. And there are schools in San Jose that are still proudly named after him, a real testament to a life spent building a community. And all this kind of leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? Moses Schallenberger's life brings up a fascinating question. I mean, he was absolutely a trailblazer, no doubt about it. He survived an ordeal that should have been impossible. But maybe his greater legacy is in the quiet, steady life that came after, building a family, a farm, a community. His story really makes you think. Pioneering isn't just about the trail you blaze. It's also about what you build once you get to the end of it.
This biographical sketch is brought to you by the Sunnyvale Historical Society and Museum Association. For over 70 years, bringing history to life through the stories of westward-bound pioneers. And History Expeditions, faithfully retracing the steps of America's most notable trailblazers over the Sierra Nevada.